Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Dana Brajajana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagatarja Asta Tarasata C.C. His Divine Grace C.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. So this is the disappearance day of Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakura. I was thinking to read this morning from the final days of his life. There's a new version of folio, so it takes a while to find. Here we go. Chapter 17, The Final Days. In October, Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri, and there he exhibited his pastime of illness for some time. At the Chatak Parvat in Jagannath Puri, which is considered to be non-different from Giri Govardhan, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur observed Madhvacharya's appearance day celebration and chanted verses specified for such occasions from the writings of Srila Rupa and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's writings. He also held a similar festival for his spiritual master, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. While he was passing his days in Puri, he was often heard to utter phrases from the verses of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Pashyasam pratyasam me tvam kuru govardhan purnam. O Govardhan, please fulfill my desire. Ni jani kantivasam dehi govardhana tvam. O Govardhan, please give me a dwelling place on the banks of the pond nearby you. They both wrote a Govardhan Astakam. These are verses from it. He also said pointedly, you all take to sincere Hari Bhajan. There are not many more days. He gave lectures in Puri for about a month and a half. And then, on December 6th, he left Puri for Calcutta. At the Puri station, he was paid respects by many distinguished persons, especially due to their appreciation of his monumental activities of preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message in India as well as abroad. Along the route, there was a stop in Cuttack where he met Professor Sanyal and other followers, and in Calcutta, many devotees greeted him at Howrah station and brought him to the Gaudiya Math at Bagh Bazaar. There he gave a lecture which lasted over an hour, and he covered many profound topics. He spoke of the importance of good association, the mystery of Lord Chaitanya's madness and separation in Puri during the last days at the Gambhira, in the association of Srila Swarup Damodar and Srila Ramananda Roy. He spoke of the Guru's vision of seeing his Guru everywhere. Quote, I see my Gurudev, who is graciously present in all these different forms. If he is not graciously present in all these different forms, then who would preserve me? Those whom my Gurudev has made his own are my saviors. The order of the Guru, the order of the Gurus who have their nature in protecting the protecting power of the divinity are always present in different forms and figures to bestow their mercy on me. All of them are specific manifestations of Sri Guru who confers spiritual knowledge. Then ... The transcendental reflections, which are also of the nature of supporters, are the worshipful of the divinity, which appears in the different planes of cognitive existences, and are my Gurudev in his different forms. He who is constantly showing us how to serve Godhead throughout life is no other than Sri Gurudev. Sri Gurudev is present in every object as the supporting principle. He is graciously present in every object. And he quotes a verse from Canto 10, Chapter 30. This is the gopis searching for Krishna. O Chuta, O Priyala, O Panasa, Asana, and Kovidara, O Jamba, O Arka, O Bilva, Bakula, and Amra. These are different kinds of trees. O Kadamba and Nipu, and all you other plants and trees living by the banks of the Yamuna, who have dedicated your very existence to the welfare of others, we gopis have lost our minds. So please, tell us where Krishna has gone. Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakura also discussed the dangers of discussing other topics after having admitted the topics of the Supreme are superior, thereby indicating that the other topics in connection with the Lord are inferior. He quoted the line from Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha, Sada Dambam Hitva, always give up pride. He discussed the necessity of being careful about offenses to Vaishnavas, especially in connection with the Brahmanda Brahmite verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, particularly describing the dangerous creepers of adoration, profit, and distinction. He quoted from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati, from the Dainya or humility section, which begins, Amara Jivana Sada Pape Rata Nahilo Punyera Lesha. I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety and trouble, unquote, in which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur feels himself to be grossly sinful materialistic person. The translation, which perfectly describes the life of an envious materialist, serves to instruct us what qualities must be overcome in our endeavor for self-realization, and which a self-realized person in his humility feels that he still possesses. 1. I am an impious sinner and have caused others great anxiety. 2. I have never hesitated to perform sinful actions for my own enjoyment. Devoid of all compassion, concerned only with my own selfish interests, I am remorseful, seeing others happy. I am a perpetual liar, and the misery of others is a source of great pleasure for me. Pretty heavy song. 3. The material desires in my heart are unlimited. I am wrathful, devoted to false pride and arrogance, intoxicated by vanity, and bewildered by worldly affairs. Envy and egotism are the ornaments I wear. 4. Ruined by laziness and sleep, I resist all pious deeds, yet I'm very active and enthusiastic to perform wicked acts. For worldly fame and reputation, I engage in the practice of deceitfulness. Thus I am destroyed by my own greed, and am always lustful. 5. A vile, wicked man as this, rejected by godly people, is a constant offender. I am such a person, devoid of all good works, forever inclined toward evil, worn out and wasted by various miseries. And number 6 is the last. Now in old age, deprived of all means of success, humbled and poor, Bhaktivinoda submits his tale of grief at the feet of the Supreme Lord. It is clear from these themes that aside from personally feeling a state of profound humility, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura was discussing the giving up of pride, the weeds that choke the creeper of devotion, and the above verses were a profound instruction and warning to his disciples about how to cultivate bhakti with great humility themselves. He was aware of the fire of ordeal that was to come for them collectively and individually. Therefore, he identified the anartha and explained how to remove them, anarthas, and explained how to remove them without falling prey to arrogance or envy of others. The great Acharya, who is now soon to depart, was giving essential instructions about the pitfalls that would ensnare many of his disciples. Then it's in brackets, a whole paragraph. In the same manner, in Srila Prabhupada's last days, he gave many warnings about cooperation and not allowing ourselves to be falsely motivated by pride or egotism. Similarly, he exhibited extreme humility, asking his godbrothers to forgive him for his offenses, saying that he had been proud, etc. And we see how cogent and important these warnings by the self-realized acharyas are, who, although having personally transcended such petty problems of heart, can clearly see the absolute necessity to warn their neophyte disciples about the stumbling blocks on the path of pure bhakti, both by example and precept. That was the end of the brackets. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura elaborated on these themes in Dhaka in 1935, which I think is referring to a prior circumstance. Doesn't give the date. Dhaka. Look within. Amend yourself rather than pry into the frailties of others. Quote, in this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends for Hari Bhajan. The Lord Gaurasundara puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune. Next. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual of this world. That evening, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura gave another long lecture, which centered on the theme of how to deal with an unwieldy mind. He again referred to the first verse of Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. Quote, it's a long verse. O mind, my brother, I fall down at your feet and beg you to relish unprecedented and exclusive rati, bhava, in the constant remembrance of the spiritual master, the cows, the cowherd men, and the milkmaids of Braja, the loving devotees of Lord Krishna, the pure Brahmanas, the living mantra, heard from the Divine Master, which releases the mind from Maya's bondage, the holy names of Krishna, and the divine youthful couple of Braja, casting aside all thoughts of pride and egoism of the mundane plane at all times and under all circumstances, unquote. Nice verse. He also referred to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's song from Gitavali under the topic of Shreyo Nirnaya, or spiritual welfare, which begins, Bhajare Bhajare Amarana Ati Manda. Worship, oh worship, extremely wicked mind. He explained the song in some detail, especially the first verse. Says same verse. Oh, my mind, how wicked and foolish you are. Just worship the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna in the forest of Braja. Without such worship, there is no means of spiritual advancement. Give up all speculative knowledge and materialistic activities and just worship Radha and Krishna in the forests of Braja. On the 13th day of December, 1936, at the Gaudiya Math's Auditory Hall, Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswathi Thakura gave a very long lecture in which he covered a wide range of topics, touching again and again on the themes of the danger of worldliness encroaching on one's spiritual endeavors. He quoted a song that he had written called Nirjana Anartha. Long whole song phrases here. Your gold is the progenitor and enjoyment. Serve Madhava with gold. The desire in your heart for beautiful women is not for you. Their only proprietor is Yadava. The tree of desire for fame is the desert of the illusory energy. Ravana did not get it by struggle against Raghava. Be dedicated to the fame of a Vaishnava. If you do not worship that, you will go to hell. Raurava. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5.20.10, the type of person who deserves to go to hell of Raurava is described as follows. Now, I don't know if that was in his lecture or not. Again, the theme of ridding oneself of anarthas was strongly being preached by Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur. Compassionately, he was urging everyone to give up pride and envy and simply immerse themselves in spreading the glories of the Lord. His mission had become immense, an immense vehicle for this. He didn't want it to fail. He quoted multiple sources to establish the point of single-minded devotion to Krishna. Finally, he concluded, quote, "We are all sojourners on the path of death. Everyone has to die, therefore, in this state of life, whether one is male or female, high or low, king or subject, rich or poor, learned or foolish, everyone can make this very rare human form of life successful by becoming a servant of the eternally pure, completely blissful Sri Hari. Even in this conditional life, one can become liberated. Therefore, it is overwhelmingly necessary to do so. On December 23rd, 8 days before entering the eternal pastimes of the Lord, he made the following remarks. Here's the first quote. I have given anxiety to many people, as I have been compelled to speak genuinely truthful words, and as I have told people to worship Hari without any hypocrisy. There are possibly many people who even consider me to be an enemy, so that they may become eager to perform the sincere service of Sri Krishna, freed from other desires and deceitfulness. I have given various types of anxieties to numerous people. One day or another, they will certainly be able to understand this. Paragraph. With great enthusiasm, preach the word of Sri Rupa Raghunath to everyone. Our ultimate desirable object is to become the dust at the lotus feet of the followers of Sri Rupa. All of you, remain united in allegiance to the Acharya Vigraha, or spiritual master, in order to satisfy the senses of the transcendental entity of non-dual knowledge. Everyone, with the sole view of worshipping Hari, will carry on life in this temporary 2-day material existence in any way possible. Do not give up the worship of Hari, even amidst hundreds of dangers, hundreds of insults, or hundreds of persecutions. Do not become unenthusiastic upon seeing that the majority of people in this world are not accepting the message of Krishna's sincere worship. Never give up the audition and glorification of the topics of Krishna. They are your own personal worship and your very all and all. Being humble like a blade of grass and patient like a tree, constantly glorify Lord Hari. I mean, it's still pause for a moment. It seems that he's transcendently aware that his departure is imminent. And so he's, the spirit of his speaking is preparing his disciples to carry on after his departure. And essential messages they need in order to receive what he wants to give them. And there's impediments, and beware of them. Understand them, and Rupa and Raghunath and the mercy of great souls call for their mercy so you can overcome those impediments. We are nurturing a desire to dedicate this good-for-nothing body in the Sankirtan sacrifice of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and his associates. We are not at all desirous of any heroism in fruitive actions or religion, but our real condition is to be the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Prabhu, birth after birth. This is our all in all. The line of Bhakti Vinod will never be closed. with even more enthusiasm, you should become engaged in preaching the desire of Bhaktivinoda's heart. Amongst you, there are many capable and accomplished men. We have no other desire at all. These are our only words. And then this phrase that we mentioned already from Raghunath Das Goswami in his Mukta Charita writes a prayer to Rupa Goswami. Adadanas Tanayadantayar Yache Puna Panak Panak Shrimad Rupa Padambo Jo Duli Shyam Janma Janmani. Remember that one? Taking a blade of grass between my teeth, I fall down and again pray that I may become the dust at the feet of Sriman Rupa, birth after birth. Now this translation says he becomes the dust, or the other translation I'm familiar with, receives the dust. These are all, quote unquote. Quote, there are various types of inconveniences while staying in this world, but there is no need for us to become extremely afflicted by these inconveniences or to try to dispel these inconveniences. While staying here, it is necessary for us to gain an introduction to what our eternal life will be and to what entity with a capital E we will attain after all these inconveniences have been removed. Here, it is compulsory to make decisions about all those objects which attract and repel in various ways, both that which I want and do not want. We will be drawn by the attractions and repulsions of this place to the same degree as the amount of intervening distance there is between us and the lotus feet of Krishna. When we go beyond the attractions and repulsions of this world and are attracted by the transcendental name, then the topics about the mellow of service to Krishna can be understood. At the present time, the topics about Krishna are greatly startling and perplexing. Adventitious occurrences are obstructing our eternally needed realization. To eliminate these, everyone who holds the name of a human being is more or less consciously or unconsciously engaged in a struggle to enter into that eternally needed kingdom beyond all duality is our only necessity. He's way up there. You sit and hear from Bhakti Siddantha and you're in another place. He's just the kind of person, kind of writing, very elegant and elevated ways of saying it, but that's the place, and listen to him, and that's where you go. Next. In this world, we do not have any attachment or aversion towards anybody. All the arrangements of this world are momentary. That supreme desideratum is indispensably necessary for every single person. The object of spiritual desire. May all of you, with one aim and in a single voice, attain the right of serving the original Ashraya Vigraha. May the flow of thought of Sri Rupa's followers stream over the world. May we never, in any condition whatsoever, show aversion to the sacrifice of chanting the 7-tongued Sankirtan of Sri Krishna. If there is ever increasing attachment to this, perfection on all sides will be achieved. May all of you, by the earnest pursuance of Sri Rupa's followers, preach the word of Rupa Raghunath in a fearless voice with supreme enthusiasm. Like, he's a good person to be with, right? Then the next section is Disappearance Nitya Leela. On the morning of December 31st, 1936, Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakur requested Sripad B.R. Sridhar Maharaj to sing Sri Rupa Manjari by Srila Narottam Das Thakur and Sripad Naveen Krishna Vidya Lankar to sing the Shikshastaka. In the forenoon, he requested the editor of the Gaudiya magazine to see to it that the Vaishnava Manjusha, that's a casket of Vaishnava vocabulary, would be compiled and published. In his last days, he had specifically requested that his disciples form a governing body commission of 10 or 12 devotees to manage the society's affairs. Two of his last statements were, love and rupture both should have the same end in view. Thakur Narottam lived on the principles of Rupa Raghunath. It is good to follow that path. To all he announced, please accept my blessings to you all, present and absent. Please bear in mind our sole duty and religion is to spread and propagate service to the Lord and his devotees. Thus, the great Acharya, Singha Guru, the uncompromising sadhu, the Vaikuntha man, as Srila Prabhupada once described him, the tireless preacher of the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, left this material world uttering the name of Krishna at about 5:30 a.m. on Thursday, January 1st, 1937, and entered the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, having firmly established the foundation of a spiritual movement which would be carried around the world by his pure servant Prabhupada. Then there's the details of what happened after his being placed in samadhi. Yeah. Went to the Yogpith, took his body to Srivasanga, Advaita Bhavan. Finally, he was brought to Vraja Patana, the place of his intense bhajan, where he had performed the vow of chanting 1 billion names, and so forth and so on. So there's the details of that ceremony. Here's some of his primary contributions. He did much to establish a unifying influence on the various Vaishnav sects by stressing the point of agreement shared by the 4 major sampradayas. He published the writings of other Vaishnavacharyas, especially Srila Madhvacharya and Srila Ramanujacharya, and also published accounts of their lives. In his travels throughout India, and especially South India, he enjoyed a reputation of being an incredibly powerful debater, and would receive the title Singha Guru lion guru. Various proponents of the Mayavad school would cross the street rather than confront him, and he was known to accost such scholars and chastise them for cheating the innocent public with false philosophy. He established 64 temples, 17 in Navadvip Mandala, including the 29-pinnacled Sri Chaitanya Mat, Sri Advaita Bhavan, Sri Srivas Anga, the large temple at the site of the Yog Peeth, which was opened by the king of Tripura in 1935. Swananda Sukhada Kunj, the place of bhajan and samadhi of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Madhruma Gaudiya Mat, the site of Vrindavan Das Thakur's appearance, and many others. And it tells where the other temples were. And outside of India, temples were established in Rangoon and small centers in London and Germany. Bhaktisiddhanta established many presses and printed thousands of books. In 1928, he even established a daily newspaper called Nadia Prakash. He gives the explanation. His presses were, he gives the places where he had printing presses. He published the following magazine. Sajjana Toshan he established in 1881 by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, later taken over by Bhaktisiddhanta, and renamed The Harmonist, an English monthly. The Gaudiya, his first magazine, established in 1922 as the official weekly journal of the Gaudiya Math. The Nadia Prakash, established in 1926, initially as an English/Bengali magazine, but later a daily newspaper. The Bhagavata, established in 1931 as an Hindi fortnightly, and there's others. He personally wrote over 108 essays and books. Here's the list. Apart from his own writings, he also published many other books. There's a long list of what the other books were. He met with many scholars, leaders, and educators and established Krishna consciousness as a great science worthy of the highest esteem. He had interviews and debates with the acharyas of other schools of thought and was never defeated, thus establishing the Achintya Beda Tattva philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the supreme doctrine of all time. Paragraph. He also propagated theistic displays and diorama exhibits. Gives a list. These exhibitions were free and were staged with the help of toys, dolls, pictures, writings, and even mechanical devices for moving dolls, describing the Leelas of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, etc. Generally, these exhibitions were held for 15 days, but occasionally longer, according to popular demand. He also established several important parikramas of the Dham, especially Navadvip Dham Parikrama and the Braj Mandala Parikrama, which were both originally set in motion by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, etc. He established places, the feet of Lord Chaitanya in various places where he traveled in South India. Bhaktisiddhanta always emphasized kirtan and talked about Krishna. He called the press his Brihat Mridanga. He preached the theme of Daivi Varnashram very vigorously in the line of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, as well as the division of devotional writings into 3 categories, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Srila Bhakti Siddantha Saraswati Thakura was an innovator in many ways. Although sannyasis traditionally never used any conveyances, with the exception of ox carts, he rode in motor cars, motorized boats, etc. Although sannyasis never wore sewn cloth, Bhaktisiddhanta and his preachers on occasion wore overcoats, kurtas, etc. He utilized the radio for broadcasting his message and sent sannyasis over the sea, which was considered revolutionary. All of this innovation was strictly in the mood of spreading the glories of the Lord and engaging people in Krishna consciousness. Goes on. So there's a lot of, and defeating the deviated sampradayas, very strong. His physical appearance was tall. He had long arms, a slender body, broad forehead, aquiline nose, intense eyes, golden complexion, and he was full of ecstatic love of God. His presence was amiable and majestic. He was well versed in all subjects and scriptures, having devoured and memorized many libraries, and was called the living encyclopedia. He knew Sanskrit, Bengali, English, astronomy, and many other branches of knowledge. He was very courageous and had unlimited capacity for preaching, and was naturally decorated with the 26 qualities of a pure devotee. And the conclusion is, Prabhupada would say, what can I say? He was a Vaikuntha man. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Or Premanandi.